Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my parents the peace of mind that my sister will be well cared for when they're gone? I'm 34. 10 years ago, I cut my sister out of my life after she cheated with my then fiancé. It was a 2-year-long affair that only came out when I caught them. She was pregnant and pretended it was the result of a one-night stand. They both knew I would never forgive them if I found out. And according to my ex, they were hoping I would love being an aunt and it would be easier to carry around behind my back if I was busy with a baby. They ended up getting married and having 2 kids. Then 3 years ago, my sister was involved in a car wreck and she suffered life-changing injuries. My parents stepped up to be her full-time caregivers as she will never be able to take care of herself. About a year later, her husband/my ex died, and their kids went to his parents while my parents became my sister's legal guardians. A few months ago, they started dropping hints about wanting me to step up after they're gone. Then a month ago, my parents called and asked me to meet them. They said they're worried what will happen to her when they're gone, or even if they are no longer able to care for her in a few years, and would I take over? Either by putting her in a care facility and making sure she's cared for, or physically taking care of her myself. I said no, that they needed to figure something else out. But I would never do a single thing for her again, and that hadn't changed because she became disabled. They took it okay at first. Then a week ago, when I had it called to change my mind, they said I was the a-hole for not doing it for them. To give them the peace of mind if nothing else. Because even after what she did, she's still their daughter, and she can't advocate for herself. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. Your sister burned down that particular bridge. Exactly. Plus, it's not your job to take care of someone who betrayed you. It is the same as it is for abusive parents who become elderly. No one should expect you to come back into their lives simply because they can no longer look after themselves. I think it is pretty horrible for the parents to put this guilt on Opie. Not an a-hole, but boy, talk about karma though. Without the backstory, it would probably be no a-holes here, because you're not required to care for siblings. Though I'd have said that would be the kind thing to do, because we all need help sometimes. / it take a village / whatever. But with backstory, not an a-hole. She cheated and was never sorry. If she hadn't been in the accident, you wouldn't have ever interacted with her again. If your parents are asking you to make sure she's taken care of in a facility, it sounds like there's money available. They should set up a trust, or find a friend of your sister's to have them oversee the situation. You don't need to be dragged in. The sister also has kids and parents-in-law. If the kids are adults when she needs to go to a care home, they may be able to help. If not, or in addition, the in-laws could step in, as it involves the care of their daughter-in-law, so they're invested in the situation. Edit. Unless the grandparents are too old / have passed away, but then the kids may be adults who can help their mom in some way. Not an a-hole. They need to make arrangements now while they are able. Exactly. They can find an appropriate care home right now and get on the waiting list, because it's not something you can do quickly. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out of my house for eating my wife's birthday cake? My male 28 brother Steve, male 23, moved in with me after he got kicked out of his college dorm for repeated violations. He's been staying with me, my wife, and our 6-month-old son for a couple of months now. My wife's birthday was days ago. I wanted to plan something special for her because this year has been very stressful for her. From studying to become a new mom, she barely found time for herself. I helped with all I could, but because this is her birthday, I decided to not let her burden herself with doing any work. On her birthday, I made a reservation for a spa session she has been needing for so long, and I started getting everything done. The cake arrived from the bakery at 11 a.m., and I asked Steve and his buddy Jason to help with the decoration. I gave few tasks to get done while I went to take care of my son and get him to sleep. About half an hour later, I came downstairs and walked into the kitchen and saw that both Steve and Jason were having large pieces of my wife's birthday cake in separate plates. I asked what the heck was going on, and Steve told me to chill. I got mad seeing the cake split in half and 2 large pieces of it were gone. I flipped out and told him this wasn't for him to take. He said he and his buddy got hungry from helping me out and really wanted to try some of the cake because it looked delicious. I yelled at him about how awful and disrespectful what he did was. Yet he said I was overreacting since he left enough for me, my wife, and the guests. But it's not about that. He ruined the cake that I spent a week ordering from the bakery. I told him my wife wouldn't even like how it looked and won't even get the chance to blow the candles. He said, "I'm sorry, alright? But you're just being a little too dramatic about a piece of cake." Then Jason said, "Yeah, man. Besides, who cares about some stupid candle blow? Totally unhygienic. Is your wife like 5? I lost it. I kicked Jason out and told Steve to pack and leave my house. He said he couldn't believe I'd seriously tell him to get out over something so small. I told him this was my wife's birthday cake. I just said he could talk to her and explain, but I had none of it. I had him pack and leave. My father called and got all pissed, telling me I was out of my mind to kick my brother out with nowhere to go over a birthday cake. I live in the city where Steve's college is, but my family live far away. He and Mom told me to go pick Steve up where he's staying, but I said no. My actions were called disgraceful and immature for reacting this way over a cake. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And we all see why Steve was kicked out of his dorm for repeated violations. He probably treated his dorm mates with the same respect he treated you and your wife. Based on Mom and Dad's response, it seems pretty obvious why the brother is the way he is. Rotten from the core, with zero empathy, and too dumb to realize the world does not rotate around him. Not today, OP. Though I would not have allowed him to move in the first place after getting kicked out of the university housing. Exposing my 6-month-old to that level of instability wouldn't have been a no-go. Seriously, I don't even have kids, and I'd be hesitant to take in someone who got kicked out of their dorm under those circumstances, because I'd be worried they wouldn't follow whatever house rules we might decide to set. I definitely wouldn't take them in if I had an infant or small child in the house. I get that some universities are super strict with their housing rules, and if someone had been kicked out just for smoking grass one time, that's a situation I might be able to sympathize with. But here, it was multiple violations, and I hope it doesn't specify what they were. But I'm willing to bet that if I saw that person's track record, I wouldn't feel comfortable having them live with me. Not today, home. I'm sorry, but in what world do you dig into someone's birthday cake before their actual birthday celebration? If Steve doesn't have somewhere to live, it's his own fault for making, what sounds like, a long series of bad decisions. Everyone knows you don't cut a birthday cake before the party. If this was the only food in the house and they were starving, that still would have made them a-holes. But to just blow it off like, meh, there's enough left for the birthday person, is just mind-boggling levels of failness. Good for you for kicking those two out. And thank you for taking such good care of your wife for her birthday. I'm sure at least the spa day turned out well. And hopefully she'll learn to laugh at this cake story. Not today, home. My actions were called disgraceful and immature. And what were your brother's actions called? It's very apparent he has boundary/behavior issues. Otherwise, he'd still be living in campus. He's supposed to be learning adult skills. Seems he's failing miserably. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to make a second meal during a family dinner? My husband and I hosted his family for dinner last weekend, and a situation arose where I am now being called out. I don't want to see what you all think. My husband's parents, brother, sister-in-law, and 3 nephews came to eat at our house. About an hour before dinner was served, my brother-in-law pulled me aside and said their youngest was being a picky eater and wouldn't eat the lasagna or salad I had made. So he asked me to make this specific dish for him. Not only was this not a quick dish, but it would take at least 3 hours to prepare. I said no, that I could throw on some fries for him, but no extra meal just for him. He told me he wanted his son to eat more than just fries, and that as the host, I should go the extra mile to make sure everyone has something. The dish? Chicken tenders and fries. Just fancied up and had a homemade ketchup accompaniment. The last time we saw the kid for dinner, he was eating spicy noodles and veggies. But now, all he eats is McDonald's or these homemade fries and tenders. I don't remember what side the recipe was for, but the tenders required an awful lot of prep and ingredients. We had most of it, but that was beside the point in my eyes. The whole dinner was tense because my husband's brother was pissed at me. The youngest didn't eat a single thing and demanded McDonald's because he was hungry and turned his nose up at fries. Then my husband and his brother ended up fighting because he disrespected me, and my husband wasn't having any of it. My husband's parents complained that I made things awkward. This was after dinner. I think it's ridiculous, but are they right? Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not today haul. If parents have a child with a picky appetite and a rude attitude towards eating what's provided, it's the parent's responsibility to show up with food that their child will eat. Your brother-in-law knew his child would not eat anything provided. It was his job to take care of the matter, not yours. This kid is doing a great job of training his parents to jump when it says jump. But that doesn't mean that you have to join the same obedience school. My brother-in-law definitely blew me away with a request. The thing is, there was no warning ahead or anything. Because I don't mind if he didn't want lasagna. But to expect me to make a second meal an hour before dinner being served is so damn rude to me. It is rude. And what's worse is that he then doubled down on making you and everyone else uncomfortable before having a full-scale fight with your husband. Your brother-in-law owes you an apology. Not that I think you'll get one. I don't think you should enable them or help spoil the kid by making special accommodations. As parents, we should be teaching our children to be mindful and respectful. I remember some etiquette classes I had. The polite way is always to show appreciation to your host. I just can't conceive parents who would demand a special meal be cooked for their kid at somebody else's house. This rude behavior is so out of line, in so many levels. Not today, home. What an entitled bunch. I would not invite them again. Imagine people come for free food, and the guests are entitled enough to be mad for not making 10 different types of food. I mean, at least let Opie know early. Not today, home. They could have brought the meal for him and heated it up. They just want to be a-holes and make you serve them. Now for the last story. Would I be the a-hole if I asked my grieving sister to leave the house she used to live in with her late husband? I'm female 30, currently pregnant. I have a sister, Emma, 48, who lost her husband to the big sea last year. Emma was and still is completely devastated by her husband's death. And when he passed in May, she immediately wanted to get rid of their house. As soon as she told me she wanted to sell, I jumped on the chance. Her house has literally been my dream house since I was a child, and Emma was very happy for it to stay in the family. She wanted to sell it to me for ridiculously cheap, but I insisted on paying only very little below market price. She was grateful. We set up the contract. The sale was officially closed in July. Very quick sale. Emma moved about 5 hours away into a flat in a fairly big city and seemed very happy there for the last year. Then her new therapist made her understand that she's never really given herself time to grieve properly. And so recently she asked me if she could move back into the house to find a way to say goodbye. I admittedly was hesitant. I'm due with my first child in October. I'm a single mom. I'm in the process of renovating some space for my daughter. However, I agreed, and Emma has been living with me for about 4 weeks now. Things are not going great. She cries all day, every day, which she says is normal as per her therapist, but makes me really worry. She still acts as if the house is hers, rearranging my things, using things without asking. She keeps locking my cat in rooms because she doesn't like him. I overheard her on the phone with a friend saying she was excited for my daughter to arrive, because it'll mean she'll have the house to herself for a few weeks. When I confronted her, she said, "Aren't you moving in with Mom for a few weeks so she can help?" I told her no. In fact, my mother-in-law would be staying with me. Max doesn't want to be involved, but his mom does, however. And she's the sweetest, because Mom is over 70 and physically can't do it anymore. Emma has been really weird since then, acting as if I wronged her somehow. When I asked her how long she'd be staying, she had no answer. I'm thinking of asking her to move out soon, so I can prepare for my child, but my parents have warned me against it. Because Emma's still so fragile. And even my friend said that it really didn't feel right to throw out a grieving person who so obviously needs help. So would I be the a-hole? Edit. People are overwhelmingly implying my sister is being malicious, and I want to make it very clear that she isn't. My sister is not a horrible, mean-spirited person who just wants her home back. That's not it at all. And I would ask you to please stop inferring that. She is a deeply hurt, devastated person who just wants to find a way to reconnect with her late husband after she sold everything relating to him that she had out of grief and pain. If she was anything like some people in the comments suggest, I would not feel so heartbroken thinking I might have to kick her out. Info. Have you asked your sister to do a group session with her therapist? I'm guessing that therapist is not fully informed of this situation. Her therapist is a lovely lady. I've met her once before, actually. She did not suggest my sister move in with me. She suggested my sister moved on too fast. Emma literally sold absolutely everything relating to my brother-in-law because she couldn't handle the pain. She got rid of everything in a matter of weeks, and then moved far away so she wouldn't even have to see the places they've been at together anymore. My house is literally the only thing she's left that directly connects her to her husband in a significant way. Okay, you definitely need to do a joint session. Therapist will almost certainly light a fire under your sister's butt, which needs to be done. But it's best if it's not you doing the pushing. Not today, home. Question. Do you think the therapist really suggested she move back home? Or was this possibly a way for her to get back into her comfort zone? You're about to bring a child home, and that child is your priority. Tell your sister there are going to be some non-negotiable house rules. But if she's unable to adhere to them, then she should likely start to find another place. You paid for the home and welcomed her to grieve. This is not her new normal situation. You didn't sign up for that. Good luck with your baby. From what she told me, and I believe her therapist made her realize she pushed everything related to her husband away immediately because she couldn't handle the pain. She sold a house, got rid of almost all of their joint possessions, his clothing, books, art they collected, etc. She got rid of everything in a matter of weeks, and then moved far away so she wouldn't even have to see the places they've been at together anymore. So yeah, I can see where the therapist is coming from. My house is literally the only thing she has left that directly connects her to her husband in a significant way. Not today, home. We set up the contracts. The sale was officially closed in July. Your sister acting as if that house still belongs to her is not justifiable. I don't care how much she's grieving, or if it still holds sentimental value. She signed a contract. You should contact a lawyer and inform yourself about what could be done because she's not going to leave your house willingly. That's going too far. I'm not evicting my own grieving sister. I already feel bad just about talking to her about leaving. My family would also never let me live that down. Just because it is legally my house doesn't mean I don't want to help her get better. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she needs to get a job while her sister is dying? My 27 male girlfriend, Sarah, 27 female, sister, 40 female, who she is real close to, is dying. They found cancer and it is terminal and aggressive, so she has 4 years max, but more likely 1 or 2 years. The news is extremely shocking and upsetting for me, but it's way worse for my girlfriend, obviously. She has not been working because she is doing a course and is only missing a few assignments. She sat me down and said that she was going to drop out and spend time with her sister. I told her I thought spending time with her sister was a great idea, but she needed to finish the course in the meanwhile, and then I could support both of us for a few more months instead of her getting a job right away and make decent money, and she could spend that time with her sister. Sarah got extremely upset and said that I was a materialistic person who just didn't care or understood how upset she is, and that she will not finish her course or get a job to any stage before her sister passes away. I said I'd help her out, and that she didn't need to hand in perfect assignments, just a bare minimum to pass the course. I said she could even move in with her sister short term. Sister lives alone and is divorced, if she wants, and come home at the weekend. Sarah's plan of not working for the foreseeable future is dependent on me working a super stressful job with long hours and supporting her mentally and monetarily until her sister's death and potentially beyond. I've already been doing this over a year at this stage, and I was aiming to move to a non-managerial and less paid but less stressful job mid-year because the stress is physically harming me. Cannot sleep, hair falling out in chunks, which is apparently unrelated to age/panic attacks. But I cannot do that if I'm the only one working. I was also trying to save my Christmas bonus, but she keeps showing me clothes she wants and saying, "My life is so upsetting. Why can't I have these pretty clothes?" So I will buy them for her. I am trying to be understanding because I know she must be devastated. But I also need to have an idea of when she will get a job again. Last night, I sat her down and told her she needs to get a job, even just part-time, by the end of the summer. Course is finished in a few weeks, because I need to move to a less stressful job. She said my work stress cannot compare to the stress of a loved one dying, and that I'm just being dramatic. She also told me she's planning a really expensive trip for whenever travel goes back to normal to blow off steam, but she has no savings, so I am expected to pay for the whole trip. I told a few people and they said I was being dramatic, and a few more years of the high-stress job will not kill me. But other friends said that my girlfriend's demands are ridiculous and that she was not planning to work even before this. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she needs to get a job by the end of the summer while her sister is dying? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your partner's grief, however profound, does not justify her incredible entitlement. It's sickening that she'd use her sister's condition as ammunition to manipulate you. I'm disgusted by your partner's behavior. You should be too. I couldn't explain it better due to word count, but it's actually a lovely idea, although super expensive. After her sister's death, she's planning to go on a trip her sister has always dreamed of going on and bring some of the ashes with her. The issue is that the trip she wants to go on is around northern European countries, Norway, Iceland, etc., for 6 weeks, and she said that even though her sister's idea was of going to hostels, etc., she cannot deal with that and she wants to go to good hotels. I explained I cannot get 6 weeks off work, and even if I could, that would blow all my savings because those countries are expensive. And she basically said I was just shutting down her way from remembering her sister. Good lord, your girlfriend is truly awful. Please end this relationship. You need to take care of yourself, especially since your girlfriend apparently doesn't care about your well-being in the slightest. If she's really going to make her sister the center of her life, she can move in with her and help care for her. And let you take a less stressful job and stop losing your hair from stress. Ditch the selfish girl. She has shown you who she is. Not the a-hole. You are not responsible for funding your girlfriend's housing, food, transportation, or vacation costs. And the fact that she's trying to guilt you into ignoring your own stress and overwork is unconscionable. Why not suggest to your girlfriend that she move in with her sister? It seems that's the only relationship that she's willing to put time and effort into. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for getting real with my stepsister, in turn causing her to cut off part of my family till I apologize? So I, female 29, have a stepsister, female 30, from my dad's marriage. I'll call her Kate. A bit of context on Kate. We met 16 years ago when our parents started dating. Kate is and always has been a judgmental, entitled bully. For example, when our parents got married, she had to have a white puffy dress. She had to have the biggest room and the best things growing up. And if, God forbid, any of us got anything from our mom or grandparents, she'd have to get better or our stuff would disappear. If she doesn't like something, she'll say it triggers her, throws a toddler-style tantrum on social media till she gets her way. But what really makes her bad is the constant shaming she does. Off the top of my head, I can think of the times she's shamed me from being too thin, my brother for wanting to be a policeman, us for being religious, even her own sister for having a planned C-section. When called on it, she does the same thing, says she's just telling it how it is, then blaming everyone for picking on her. Her mom usually makes a scene about family, and Kate is just amazingly honest, which apparently is something that needs to be valued. This all came to a head today. I went to the hospital yesterday, March 31, and shockingly found out I was 3 months pregnant with twins. I'm not going into details about my medical history, but me getting pregnant is nothing short of a miracle. I honestly never thought that with my issues I'd ever be able to carry a child. Me and my fiance cried happy tears for hours, then excitedly posted it on Facebook. The fact that it was after midnight and April Fools didn't even cross our mind. After a few calls from family, we both turned off our phones and went to bed. I woke up this morning to what I thought would be congratulations, but Kate first blocked me, then sent her followers to all my social media to give me crap. Apparently, Kate called me out to her followers for being an inconsiderate witch for making pregnancy jokes, when I should know about fertility issues, naming my private issues, and dragged me with a lot of more stupid crap. This is where I might be the a-hole. Instead of calling Kate and talking to her, I blew up. I posted my scanned pictures saying, "Well, Kate, as always, you have to make everything about you. I'm actually pregnant. Instead of blocking me, you should have maybe messaged me. But as ever with your vile, sorry, real self, you took to the internet to throw a tantrum. You're a 30-year-old woman, Kate, who lives with her mother and has an allowance from mommy. Not to mention you can't keep a relationship/friendship because dear old real Kate can't stay faithful or out of drama for too long. Hope you won't get too offended, Kate, as I'm just being real. Long story short, Kate got a lot of backlash and deleted her social media. She's cut off me, my dad, brother, and her sister till she gets a public apology from us all. They call her on it too. Her mom is demanding I apologize to make peace, and Kate has been punished enough. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. The trash took itself out. Close the door and change the locks. Yep, stupid games and stupid prizes. Kate can pound sand and slash or kick rocks. Opie's reply was perfect in every way. Sadly, the only thing that works against bullies is very firm boundaries and very harsh consequences for breaking them. Or being a bigger, scarier bully. Kate is still trying to get her way, so she still hasn't learned. Hopefully, everybody keeps standing firmly. Sounds like y'all finally got some peace. Why mess with that? Not the a-hole. Don't apologize. Not the a-hole. Your stepmom needs to remember who she is talking to when she wants to make demands. You're not the one living in her house and mooching off her money. She doesn't get to boss you around just because she's sleeping with your dad. If stepmom wants to demand an apology, she should start with a 30-year-old child starting fights who she actually has some power over, not a 29-year-old adult who has her life together. Not the a-hole at all. Kate sounds like a whole lot of negativity you don't need in your life. Especially because you're carrying twins, which by nature is high risk. You don't need that stress in your life at all. And Kate needs to grow the heck up. Congratulations on your babies-to-be. Thank you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to leave because of her fear? My 22 female, sister 17 female, is afraid of snakes. She hates them, can't be near them. My boyfriend, 21 male, is the opposite. He loves them, and we actually have 2 female. Because of this, we normally go see her, or if she comes to our place, my boyfriend's sister will take our girl for the day. So, we have a pool, and it's been really hot where we live, so we invited my sister and my parents around. Like normal, my boyfriend's sister came and took our snake. When they arrived, everything was fine until we got into the pool. My boyfriend has a tattoo of a snake. It's a blacked out silhouette that wraps around both of his arms and his back. When my sister saw it, she freaked out and told me to tell him to cover it. She knew about his tattoo. She just expected him to cover it, which she can't do without putting on a long-sleeve t-shirt. I told her no. She then went over to him and asked him to leave because he knows about her fear. This annoyed me, and I told her that if she has an issue with it, she should leave. This is his house, not hers. She got upset and just sat inside the whole time. When they left, my mom told me that I was rude to my sister and we knew about her fear and that we ruined her day. Now I'm starting to think that I could have handled the situation better. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I've been talking to someone in DMs and they said I should add some stuff we talked about to my post. My boyfriend's tattoo is very important to him. We got our current baby after his old snake dies. The tattoo is based on a picture of his old snake draped over his back and arms. Also, self-expression is very important to my boyfriend. He grew up in a very restrictive household. His mother controlled what he did, how he acted, and what he wore. We didn't just move our snake because her enclosure is built into a large bookcase in our living room. Also, this only happens once every month or so. We normally visit her. Also, my boyfriend's sister is a huge reptile nerd and loves our little girl almost as much as we do. My boyfriend actually has an irrational animal fear of his own, butterflies. He knows that not all phobias work the same, but he thinks that her asking him to leave is ridiculous. Also, when I say that it's his house, I mean it's his house, not ours. Also, to the few people asking how a 21-year-old can afford a house with a pool, my boyfriend has been in the entertainment industry since he was a kid. Think child actor/model. He hated it and no longer does it. If your sister is so afraid of snakes that even a tattoo of one is going to make her freak out, then she has a problem. She needs to leave your lovely pool and so home and think about getting some therapy. Not a-hole. First of all, not a-hole and then this. I do think therapy is the best response here. If your sister has a fear so severe that it doesn't allow her to see a drawing of it, she should really see a specialist. A hyper-realistic tattoo of a tarantula would scare the hell out of me. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary for people with phobias, but freaking out over a blacked-out silhouette is extreme. She definitely needs to talk to somebody. Edited to add, I've gotten a lot of comments in this vein, so I feel like I should say, she's still out of line for asking him to cover it. She, sister not Opie, is the a-hole. She should absolutely have either handled her crap herself or just left. I'm just pointing out that I don't think it's insane to be afraid of an image, although her reaction to a non-realistic image is pretty wild. Not the a-hole. If she really is afraid of a tattoo of a snake, she needs serious therapy. Imagery of snakes are everywhere, and that's a very intense phobia if true. To be honest though, this just seems like BS. Fears are hard to face and confront, but it seems weird to me that she has no problem making you all jump through hoops for her. Having a fear or phobia is very understandable, but the whole world can't realistically change for you. Not the a-hole. First, there's no way I could have known her fear of snakes would extend to a tattoo. I would not have thought that a tattoo would evoke the same level of fear as an actual snake. 2, you were doing a nice thing by inviting your sister to use the pool. You did not have to do this. You already went above and beyond by removing your snake from your home. 3, if a guest doesn't like something about the place/people they're visiting, they leave. They do not expect, especially in the middle of the current world situation, people to leave their own homes so the guest can be comfortable. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents off for babying my grown sister? For context, I'm 21 female and my sister is 30. We both have a job. She works at a grocery store and I work in a telephone company. My sister is always demanding things from my parents and me, and we must always cater to her demands. I work from home due to COVID, and my sister will get back home from her own job, and she'll shame me for not having a real job, and that I'm being lazy and pressures me to stop working so I can cook her some food. My parents also believe that, and make jokes about me not having a real job. A few months ago, I had to rush into the hospital because I had horrible migraines from having headphones on all the time, and I had to get sick leave for a few days. My sister said I was faking it, and my parents were laughing. She'll never go outside to do her own shopping. She always demands I go out and buy stuff for her. She expects me to make her online orders and pause whatever I'm doing at any moment just to do what she wants. I've set a boundary that I can no longer do this, and she's 30 years old. She should know how to do some stuff on her own, like going to the store, putting food in her plate, or making her online orders. My sister then cried to my mother that I was mean, and my parents got mad at me and called me horrible for not helping out my sister, and that I'm ashamed to them because I don't value my family. So please, Reddit, tell me, am I the a-hole for having enough of this behavior? I'm expected to do everything for everyone in the house, especially my sister, yet the same energy is nowhere to be found when it comes to me. Your sister is 30 and works at a grocery store and still lives with her parents. You have much more of a promising job at a much younger age, and clearly know how to take care of yourself a lot more. This isn't just babying. Your parents are ruining any chance your sister has of being self-sufficient. 100 times not the a-hole OP. You need to get out of that house and out of that situation ASAP before whatever dependent BS your sister is going on starts to seriously affect your well-being. And in the usual round of advice, make sure your family doesn't have access to your bank and credit accounts. That may mean moving to a different bank and changing passwords and everything. I mean, there is nothing inherently wrong with working in a grocery store. They are essentially workers, and we need to respect all jobs. Classism is not a good look. The real issue is the sister being entitled and treating others like crap that makes her the a-hole, not her job. Not the a-hole. You're right for calling her and your parents out on this. It's tricky if you live with them, and I'd suggest the moment you can, you should move out. And I'm sure you do that too. But unfortunately, until they can see it from their side or until they're willing to listen, you won't be able to do much about this. I don't know why you're putting this on here. To vent? You know you're not the a-hole. People in toxic families often doubt themselves, especially when everyone else is telling them they are the bad guy. Would I be the a-hole for throwing out my in-laws and sister-in-law out of my house? I have been thinking about this all week, but my moral just keep battling with my head on this matter. I, 23 male, married my wife 24 female last year before the whole pandemic fiasco. I was lucky to not get affected by the pandemic and got the order of alternating between working at home for 1 week and coming to the office on the next one, which works fine by me. My sister-in-law, 34 female, and her husband, however, are not so lucky. Both of them got fired from their job because of cost cutting, which forced them to move in with my in-laws. Around June last year, I came home from work to find boxes and bags in the living room and saw my niece and nephews running around the house. My wife pulled me aside and told me that her family got evicted from their home and have nowhere else to go, so she invited them to come stay with us, without my permission. I was furious, but figured that it is not worth fighting over, especially when they are already here, so I let it slide. My wife promised that her sister and brother-in-law would try to find a job as soon as possible, move out with my in-laws, and reimburse me for the food or any other necessities that I provided for them. Months go by, and there's no sign of them even trying. My in-laws also look like they are in no hurry to find some way to move out or find somewhere else to stay. They treat my home like it is their own, since they begin putting away some old decoration on the excuse that it looks tacky, before putting up their own taste of decor. I'm starting to feel like they're just using me for my money, since I'm the one who paid for everything, including phone bills. I gave my wife an emergency card to be used, but she misused it for her family, so I took it back. Earlier this year, I confronted them about when they can move out, and they flipped out on me. My in-laws have the audacity to insult me by saying that my late grandparents literally hand me down everything I have now, and how I should not have any problem with them living with me for the foreseeable future. Just to be clear, the house belongs to my late grandparents, so it means so much to me. They literally put me as the sole inheritor to everything they own, including their savings and life insurances. I got angry and left the house. My wife has been texting me non-stop ever since, telling me to come back and apologize for trying to kick her family out of my house, and how selfish I was for putting money over family. I reminded her of her promise, and she hung up on me. My guilty conscience keeps telling me that I should just let them live there, since they are my wife's family and my in-laws are old now. But I am tired of having to deal with the stress from both my high-stress job and at home. So would I be the a-hole for throwing out my wife's family out of my house? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, your wife is. Don't get me wrong, your in-laws are also, but your wife shoulders the majority of the blame for this situation. That's true. They might be thinking if she doesn't have a problem, then all is good. And what the heck is up with her husband since the house is a woman's domain? Some people think like that, and given they have her decorate, clearly they think if it's okay with her. That's exactly it. She invited them to move in without even discussing it with her partner. She is enabling them to take advantage of her partner by defending their terrible behavior. She is allowing them to treat her partner's family home like it is their own property. Yes, it is also her home, but it is his family's home too. Then treats her partner as if he is being irrational by not being okay with being taken advantage of. She is the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You won't get them to move out, and your wife has shown she will be on their side rather than yours. And you won't get them to move out as long as she's fighting for them. You will either win or lose this. And if you lose this, you lose everything. So kick them out. No dawdling. Get a lawyer, get an eviction notice, get them out. But do not move out yourself, because that can be seen as you abandoning the property, and they could claim squatters' rights. And their daughter might back them on it. The longer you let them stay, the harder it will be legally to make them leave. So start now and go hard. Squatters' rights I've never heard of, so it's probably the US only. We don't really know where Opie lives. We don't have such things here. I could legally report them to the police for trespassing, including my wife, but that would be too cruel, I think. Not the a-hole. When you get married, you create a new family that you prioritize over your existing family. But your wife is choosing to be a sister first and a wife second. Furthermore, she is expecting you to foot the bill for her family's shenanigans without your consent. You have to choose between being your wife's doormat or standing your ground. I would say kick them out as soon as possible and get a lawyer. Your wife's family is so entitled to your stuff, and your wife just does whatever they want. I wouldn't put it past them to entertain the possibility of getting half your possessions in a divorce, since they can't just live there for free anymore. We signed a prenup before marriage, thanks to my coworker's suggestion, so she would get nothing from me unless we had a child together. Wonder if your coworker smelled trouble in the horizon? Everyone tried to warn my sib not to marry a particular person, but sib thought it'd all be okay. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my wife help her sister? My male 31 wife, female 29, has a half-sister that I don't get along with for several reasons. For example, her sister ruined my wife's wedding dress 2 weeks before the wedding after she went to try it on without consent. She stole her car and hid it for days, hoping that she keeps it. She also lied to the family about me being inappropriate towards her. Her mom always backs her up and expects my wife, and now me, to take it. When we announced my wife's pregnancy, her sister lied and announced that she was pregnant, but it was awkward since everyone knew about her inability to have kids with her husband. She moved to our town and she started calling my wife to come help her move stuff into her new place. But the problem is that my wife is 7 months pregnant. She suffers from medical issues and needs to be careful. I told my wife to be careful. She said she had to help, and her sister calls to say she needs help with small boxes, but my wife ends up carrying heavy boxes and furniture. I offer her sister that she hire movers, but she said no need, just a few things, but she's been saying this for days. I offered to help out myself instead of my wife, but she argued with me, telling me to stop trying to control my wife. Yesterday, sister-in-law called her to invite my wife for tea. I went with her although her sister didn't want me. Once we sat down, she asked my wife if she could help her move boxes upstairs. The boxes were big. The staircase was long. I told my wife not to help. I didn't let her. It's not safe and something might go wrong. Her sister blew up at me, telling to stop controlling my wife and tell her what to do. I argued with her about how inconsiderate she was being of my wife and the baby. She just laughed it off, calling me overdramatic and that the baby will be fine. She insisted my wife help her, but I wanted us to leave. Her sister started calling me names while being nice to my wife. I took my wife home, and her stepmom called to berate me for what I said and did earlier. She told me to stay out of my wife's and her sister's relationship, and called me an abusive jerk for trying to stop my wife from helping out her sister. Her dad agreed, and told my wife she needed to stop letting me dictate her interactions with family. My wife defended me, but still didn't see anything wrong in her sister's behavior. In fact, she felt guilty for not helping. I refused to apologize after they pressured me. Not day haul. I recommend r/just no mother-in-law or similar subs, as they can sometimes have good tips for helping spouses recognize that they're being treated like absolute crap. You need to have a very serious but empathetic. She's lived her whole life like this. It's gonna take more than one convo. Series of conversations that explain how inconsiderate and borderline, if not outright, abusive her family is being to her. Then, you guys really need to go no contact. It's not safe for your wife and child now, and it won't be in the future. Remember to support her as best as you can. I hope things work out well for you and your wife, Opie. Best of luck. Not day-hole. You weren't raised in this mess, so you can see clearly. Your wife, though, not so much. When you grew up with crazy, you don't really understand what everyone else see until you remove yourself from it. Not day-hole. Am I the only one thinking the psycho half-sister is trying to force a miscarriage? You're not alone. Seriously, I thought the exact same thing. I thought that too. Scary. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my stepson he can't stay in my house? My stepson, aged 24, is getting kicked out of his apartment because he doesn't want to pay rent anymore. His roommate found another tenant and asked him to leave. He asked if he could move in with me and his mom, and I said no. Some background. He's a 24-year college graduate who works part-time when he decides to work. I helped pay for his expenses while he attended college, and I feel like with him being 24, it's time to man up and at least attempt to provide for yourself. Me not allowing him to live in my home means he would have to move from Miami to Illinois to live with his dad. He insists that he doesn't want to move, but he also refuses to get a job. Me and his mother try to explain that you have to work in order to get what you want. We've sent him job postings and I wrote his resume. I even added a little fluff to the resume to help him get interviews. He would get interviews, in some cases make it to drug testing, but would forget to take his test. So needless to say, I'm done trying. Or so I thought. Fast forward to this week. He calls with his sub-story about getting kicked out for non-payment. I tell him he can't stay in my house because he refuses to work. I can't imagine working 10 to 12 hours a day, while a healthy college-educated man sleeps till 1 p.m. and parties all night on my dime. So, because I care about him, I offered to buy him a plane ticket back to Illinois. He refused because he doesn't want to leave his car. According to him, he's put too much money in the car and he doesn't want to leave his belongings. Okay, I offered to rent him a U-Haul truck with a trailer as a one-way rental. He refused, saying he doesn't want to drive. According to him, the only option is to live with us. At this point, I'm done. So I flat out say no and get back to Illinois the best you can. Am I the a-hole? By the way, his mother says she agrees with me, but I can tell she wants to let him stay. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I was thinking it would go another way. But no, totally not the a-hole. I hope your wife backs you. If she wants to let him stay, she might be open to manipulation by him. That's the mom in us. Biology won't allow us to let our offspring starve and fail, even if it's because this bird is too lazy to go get the worm. I understand the sentiment perfectly, but I'm gonna push mine to fly away regardless. It's the only way they learn how to fly. I like the empty nest. There's less crap on the floor. If he moved in with you, you'll have to get eviction papers and police to drag him out. You know it. Even his mother knows it. You gave him options, and he rejected them all. One last thing, a final offer, a gas card with enough money on it to drive his car to Illinois. Not the a-hole. I think once he's sleeping in his precious car and eating at the local soup kitchen, he'll get the message that no one but himself is going to help him. But the moment they let him in, he's going to be like a barnacle. Not the a-hole. Once he's in, he's there for good. You've offered him all the help he needs to rectify his homeless situation. Does mom perchance give him money that dad wouldn't? Yes, she spoils him. His dad already said he's got 30 days to get a job if he comes. And there it is. Of course, he wants to stay where he can mooch off mom. Mom agrees with you that he should live with dad, but she's the very reason he doesn't want to. Of course, it might be fraught with danger telling her this. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to ask for permission when coming to my house? A little context. I, 22 female, just graduated from uni and had to move back home with my parents because of the pandemic. Our house has 2 stories. The ground level is getting remodeled, so my parents can move downstairs and I get to live upstairs alone. Now, the entire property legally is under my name. That was my biological mother's decision. She died of cancer when I was 1 and my dad remarried when I was 3. To go to me instead of my 2 older brothers who are now all moved out and have their own separate lives. When I moved back home, I asked my parents for some financial help with bills and utilities because I was unable to find a job that would pay enough to support all expenses. They told me they would support me for 2 years until the other house is done being built and until I find a good enough job. Now, yesterday, I found out that once my parents move out from my house upstairs to move to their house downstairs, they intend to keep coming in and out of my house as they please, even when I'm not at home. I mean full-on unlock the door, barge in uninvited, take what they want whenever they want without asking for my permission, or letting me know they took something. I told them that they aren't allowed to do that, and that they should inform me if they will be coming over, or if they want to get something from my house when I'm not at home. My mom, my stepmom, then got incredibly angry. Kept saying that I'm being ungrateful and I'm overstepping my boundaries, and that since they help me financially, they have every right to do that. I keep insisting that I am not being ungrateful and that this is a matter of respect and boundaries. I don't intend on coming to their house without permission, and neither should they. My mom has a bad habit of constantly going through my stuff, even my phone before I put a password on, and coming into my room without knocking. She can be very controlling, and this is exactly what I feared would happen if I decided to move back home to my home country, which I had to do because of the pandemic. I told her that if they intend to do that, then I will change the locks to the house doors. She got very upset and said that I'm being disrespectful, that she's hurt, and that she will stop supporting me. She also said that it's up to my dad now to choose what to do about this. So, am I the a-hole for threatening to change the locks and prohibiting them from coming to my house even though they helped me financially? Not the a-hole. Your mom is forcing this situation but not respecting your boundaries. She needs to understand that relationships with adult children are not the same as relationships with young ones. Good luck. Thank you. You were right about the relationships part. It can be hard sometimes to accept that, I guess. Not the a-hole. If your name is on the title, tell her if she removes financial contributions, you'll evict them. That should shut her up. Thank you for the reply. I don't think I'd like to be that harsh, to be honest, as they're still my parents, and I would hate myself if I did something like that. But I'm considering renting out my portion of the space and moving out to a smaller flat. You need to be prepared to do this. Is there a rental agreement in place, or are they just going to be living rent-free? I know they are your parents, but you should seriously consider drafting up some legal agreement so everyone is clear on expectations and what happens should you decide to move, etc. I mean, what's going to happen if you marry and have children? Will your place be big enough? If you want to move and sell this place and there's no rental/agreement in place, things are going to get very messy. I honestly did not even consider all of that. Usually, we just fight our way through conversations like that. But genuinely, this has been one of the most enlightening comments till now, so thanks for bringing this to my attention. I didn't even consider drafting a legal document like that, but I think it might be of real help. Thank you. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for bullying my mother about her cheating? It happened yesterday, and to be honest, I don't think I am the a-hole. But my dad made me doubt it, so here I am. A little bit of context first. My mom cheated on my dad when I was 10 to 11 with one of his closest friends, and when my dad found out, she left us to live with her brother. It was a really rough time for our family, and to be honest, at the time I was sure I would never see my mom again. My brother and my dad forgave her pretty quickly, but I didn't. She and my dad ended up getting back together, however. I just couldn't get out of my head how much of a horrible mother she have been to me. She would often tell me that I was a burden, that I'll be with them all my life because no man would ever want me. I was so young when she told me that, and I'm still disgusted by it. She blamed me years later for my depression and often yelled at me because of it. She would throw a fit every time I forgot to do something that she asked me, even though I was already doing everything in the house. Cleaning, laundry, taking care of the dog, everything except cooking. And after all of that, she would still call me disgusting and messy. There's so much to add to the story, but I don't want it to be too long. Anyway, I'm 20 now, moved out, soon to be married and slowly getting better. We are staying at my parents' place only for a couple of weeks, but my mom finds every little opportunity she has to start a fight with me. Right after I took a shower, she would go in the bathroom and start yelling that it's too wet. I was feeling bad for 2 days, and she called me lazy and disgusting for not cleaning around, even though I helped her to paint all of the walls from my former bedroom. Anyway, yesterday we were watching a movie, and the character that I really didn't like got a happy ending. I was a little bit disappointed, and my dad asked me why, so I told him. The character was a woman who cheated on her husband and made him help her lover to keep a job that he was losing. I say that she was a bad person, and that I would have liked it better if they just split up and learned something from this. This is when my mom went nuts. She started yelling that I have to shut my ungrateful mouth up, that she was sick of hearing me disrespect her. She says that if I don't like the show, I could just write my own story, even though it would probably be uninteresting and boring because I don't know how to write good characters. And ended up telling me that she doesn't want to be my mother anymore. I couldn't even say anything because she was yelling so much. And every time I tried to tell her that it wasn't about her, She just told me to shut up. My dad called me a manipulative bee and said that the fact that I tried to justify myself proved that I was guilty. Then my fiancé goes home and the fight stopped. She has been ignoring me since then and give me nasty looks every time I talk to her. I already apologized for hurting her feelings, but she just won't have it. So Reddit, am I the bad guy here? Now for the top comments. Not Dayhall. You didn't mean it as a poke on her. The fact she took it as if you did is on her. Also, it wasn't your actions that led to consequences. All that said, it doesn't mean that there won't be bad blood about it. Lol, she saw a shirt that fit and decided to wear it. Not Dayhall. Not Dayhall. She made a mistake. She took offense, and you are allowed to have your own moral compass. She doesn't get to take the high road on you. Not ever, about the topic of cheating. Cheating is never a mistake. She was a consenting adult and was always a Nahal. Not Dayhall. You are fully entitled to your feelings. Your mom knows what she did. She's literally suffering the consequences of betraying her family. She also sounds abusive and toxic. I'd cut them off if I were you. They're not worth the hate and abuse at all. That's just it. She isn't actually suffering any consequences. The dad and brother forgave her immediately and then allowed her to be abusive to her daughter without consequence. I agree, though, that Opie should definitely cut them off and never look back. No one in that family is worth her time. My brother often took my side, but he's rarely around, living far from us. So if I don't tell him what happened, he just don't know. And it has always been hard for me to talk to him about my problems. He has a lot of things to deal with, so I feel like I would simply be one more burden for him if I talk. However, he had a violent breakdown on my 20th birthday about our parents and how they treated us when we were younger. So I don't think that he will really cut contact with me if I go low or even no contact with my parents. But for some reasons, I'm still afraid. Anyway, I'm gonna talk to him about it all next time I'll see him. Edit. Thank you all very much for your reply. To be honest, I thought that I'll get like 10 reply at best, so it's a big surprise to me to see so many of y'all responding. I've received some really good advice, and most of you have been really sweet to me in the DMs or in comments. Thank you all for your kind words. I really needed them. We're currently staying at a hotel, my significant other and I, and we're going back home as soon as possible. Tomorrow I'll call my brother to let him know about what happened and what will happen. From now on, I'm gonna go low contact with my mother and father as well. Reading all your messages made me realize how bad they messed up my life so far. Fiancé was in therapy for years, so is ready to help me find a good therapist and get some help about my mental health. Some people ask me about any future children I may have. Well, it was already pretty clear between significant other and I that once we'll have kids, we'll set some strong boundaries with my parents. But now I'm not even sure if I really want them around my children at all. Anyway, thank you all again for your reply. I'm also sorry because I just can't answer to all of you, but what you all write to me really means a lot. I wish you all the best and promise you to take your advices and do better for me, my brother, my fiancé, and our future children. Bless you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they can figure it when they ask me to walk my sister home from her extracurriculars? I, 16 female, have a sister, 14 female. My parents favor her, always have. She's been doing extracurriculars since she was 5, whatever ones she wanted. Whereas I never got to do them until last year when I agreed to pay part towards it, and I have to walk there and back myself. Where we live, my sister's extracurriculars were called off for several months because of COVID, but one has started back up outside. And they wanted me to walk her home because it's a half-hour walk and it's kinda dark outside when they finish. I told them they should do it, and they said they couldn't. I told them to figure it out since I never got that kind of help, and they were never afraid for me to walk home in the dark when I was her age. I pointed out that was only 2 years ago too. They said I was being mean to my sister because of issues with them. And admittedly, our relationship has suffered because I'm jealous. And she doesn't get how much it sucks to see a sibling so close in age to you get everything you didn't. I'm not saying they didn't feed or clothe me, but the favoritism has been a thing since we were really young. My parents are still saying I'm a jerk for how I handled them asking me for help. And I am just like, how can they say that when they're the cause of all this? They don't seem to care. They never care when I bring up how they treat us so different and how they gave my sister so much more than me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Stand your ground. You're entitled to making your choices, and I hate it when parents pick favorites. I've dealt with it as well at times, because, well, it sucks. Tell them if you don't stop picking favorites, then you can stop asking favors of me. You're not entitled to my help unless you earn it, or something along those lines. Definitely not at A-Hall, though I'm a little torn on what Opie's supposed to do about it. On the one hand, she'll probably never forgive herself should something happen to her sister. On the other, there's the fact Opie's only 16 herself, so she's probably not a particularly effective deterrent either. Not at A-Hall. They got her to go to those classes. Let them figure out a way to get her back too. It might sound a little rude, but I really hate it when parents have favorites among their own kids. Right? Like, if she was a lot younger, it would be different because, yeah, financials can change and overall style can change, but they never made the effort to give me even half the opportunities they gave my sister. Info. Have you spoken to your parents or in any way tried to address the difference you notice between the way they treat you versus sister? Edit. Not A-Hall. Oof. If you've spoken about this and they just don't care? Yeah, that sucks. Have you seen the experiment where they give monkeys different rewards for the same behavior? Yeah, they don't care. Next story is titled, Am I A-Hall for not looking after a kid anymore? I, 27 male, used to live in a terrible apartment building, and I had a neighbor right next to me called Sarah, approximately 24 female, who had a 6-year-old son, Mark. I had lived there for 3 years and moved out about 2 months ago. My grandfather passed away and left most of his money/possessions to me and my sisters. It wasn't much after taxes, but I was able to use it as a deposit in an apartment. Sarah and her son moved in about 4 to 5 months after I did, and although she didn't talk about it, I got the feeling that her ex hadn't been the greatest. Police would come around occasionally to check if she was okay. The kid was scared stiff of loud noises and yelling, etc. I work from home, data analyst, so was around a lot. Mark used to go to a preschool while she worked, and then after he started school, he was supposed to go to an after-school child-minding thing. Sarah works 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. as a nurse aide. Problem is that back in March of last year, his after-school thing closed, and then a couple months later, his school shifted all their learning online, while his mom only got busier because of the virus. I kept seeing him playing outside by the road or hanging off the balcony, and was a bit worried for his safety, so started offering him hot chocolate and keeping an eye on him. About a week later, Sarah came by and offered me $20. She was very apologetic and explained that her parents disowned her and she couldn't afford a full-time nanny for him, but also couldn't afford to quit her job to keep an eye on him, which was basically her only other option. My older sister is a nurse, and I'd seen her looking shattered and with bruises on her face from her masks, so I felt really bad for them and offered to keep an eye on Mark while she worked, since I was at home anyway and he's a cool kid. Long story short, I told Sarah in October I was moving out, and she was distraught about what she'd do with Mark. School/childcare still hadn't reopened here yet. I offered for her to drop him off at my new place while she was working, as a temporary solution during the virus. This had been working for the last couple of months, until I received a letter from a lawyer basically informing me that Sarah was filing for child support against me, as I had taken on a paternal figure in Mark's life. I immediately called Sarah and told her to come get Mark. We had a massive fight because basically she thinks I can afford it, so why shouldn't I pay it? After she picked him up, I blocked her number and contacted a lawyer who told me that I would probably be fine, as I'm not his dad and I never offered to take care of him in any financial way. Sarah's been in touch with my sisters who think I'm doing the right thing not paying, but I'm being a jerk by refusing to look after Mark anymore. I feel horrible since he's probably back to being stuck in those crappy apartment blocks again, but I also don't want to risk a court case. Am I the a-hole for refusing to look after him while she works? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, you were being nice, and Sarah decided to take even more advantage of you than she already was. The audacity of this lady. I seriously cannot even believe it. My jaw dropped reading this. I'm sorry you and Mark are dealing with this. My reaction exactly. Shocked. He is being a good guy, and the poor kid has to suffer and lose his buddy because the mom is greedy. Sad. This is exactly why people don't want to do nice things. Not the a-hole. Why on earth? In any case, she burned that bridge. Sad the child will suffer for it. Not Dayhall, and you did the right thing. You did a lot for her, and she decided to abuse your friendship. You have to protect yourself, and if you continue to look after Mark, it would be a tacit agreement to her demands of the lawsuit, and would no doubt work against you. I think you could argue that he was just a babysitter. She has no claim here. It's like if the parents I nanny for tried to pull this stunt. No one would force a babysitter to pay child support. Based on what Opie described, he was a cheap babysitter. Tiny update. Thank you all for the lovely messages. I can't see some of them because Hereditary keeps popping up, but I'm trying to read all of them. I've said this a few times in the comments, but we'll put it here too. After what has happened, I have contacted Child Services. I haven't had an update from them, but I will post here if I hear anything. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for taking my violin back from my sister after she broke my laptop and couldn't pay? She couldn't do her band concert. I am 22 and went home to visit family for a few days. I brought my laptop, and when I was home, my 17-year-old sister broke the screen by coming into my room when I was out, which I hadn't wanted her to do anyway, tripping over a chair leg and knocking the laptop off my desk to the ground. I found out it would be $400 to have it fixed, and I asked my sister for the money. She babysits and does other work to make money. She said she needed the money for college and couldn't give me her savings. So I asked my parents if they'd ask her for money, and they said no, because it was a mistake. I took the violin and let her borrow back. I played violin in high school and bought a nice one for myself with money I'd made at a summer job, and decided to sell it to pay for the laptop screen. I am on a tighter budget and didn't want to be out that money. I didn't tell my sister I was selling the violin because I didn't want to fight. A few days after, my parents called me asking where the violin was, and I said I'd sold it to pay for my laptop to be fixed. They were mad because she had a virtual band concert with her high school band group that night, and the violin was missing with no warning. They were accusing me of stealing, and I said that it wasn't stealing because I owned the violin and was just lending it. Plus, I wouldn't have had to sell it if my sister or my parents had paid to have my laptop fixed. But they're really mad because band is something my sister was having on her college admissions, and now she doesn't have an instrument. She can't participate. She is missing several events, and my parents said I was sabotaging her college admissions. I said it wasn't about that. It was literally just me needing money, and the violin was a convenient thing of mine to sell. Am I the a-hole for selling the violin I was lending my sister to pay for a fix to my laptop when she broke it? Not the a-hole. It's yours. She's got money saved. She can buy her own violin. Also, he sold his violin to pay for damage she caused to his computer. So she, or her parents, still owe him for the cost of repairing the computer. Not the a-hole. Exactly. It's not like he stole her property to sell to repair. I don't know why people were saying he was the a-hole when he was kind enough to let her borrow the violin in the first place. Not the a-hole, but barely. Like, you did your part. You asked your sister, your parents, and they basically left you out to dry, which I would be absolutely furious about. The barely part comes in because it was your violin, but you should have said something. Like, gonna sell the violin to pay the screen tomorrow. If you need it, buy it. But like I said, you went to your family, and they basically said screw you. Not the a-hole. I bet if he'd spoken up, though, his useless parents wouldn't have let him sell the violin. Everyone sucks here. Neither instruments nor laptops are cheap. Your parents and sister absolutely should have chipped in to repair your broken laptop, and or made a plan to return your violin to you to sell to cover repairs after they bought your sister her own instrument. Frankly, if she's relying so heavily on her music as a pathway to college, she should have her own instrument rather than a loaner from someone else who might want it back at any point in time. But taking the violin when she needed it for a concert, not telling her and leaving no time for her to obtain a replacement so that she could attend concerts which are usually mandatory, was a horrible thing for you to do. Edited to Ed, just want to clarify that it's the take the instrument without telling anyone that is the issue with Opie's behavior in this situation. Taking it back is fine, but Opie had a choice. Tell them you're taking it, or don't tell them. I can't think of any reason that isn't a-holish for not telling them. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe.
And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.